All right. Hello, everybody. Sam, do you want to say hello to people?
Hello, people.
All right. So Reuben and Sam back on the channel once again. So we are happy to see you, even though we can't see you and you can't see us right now. And tonight, we will be going on area 5 of responsibility, which is advocacy. So Sam is the advocacy expert once again. I'm just here to learn. So let's roll. So Sam, how do we do this?
I think we've been doing it where we take turns reading the questions out loud, reading the answer choices, and kind of just justifying. Let's see. We've done a couple videos already, and CHES exam's getting closer. The meetings are getting later. We're doing this at definitely past 9 o'clock today. So
Right. Absolutely.
we're getting close to crunch time.
Yep, and the pressure is mounting. All right, let's begin. So you want to go first?
Sure. I'll go first.
All right. Is the font okay for you?
Yeah, looks good.
All right, sounds good. Let's begin.
All right. So starting with question 1, the coalition is having a difficult time persuading a decision maker to support an issue. The decision maker, however, can be swayed by the level of public support for the issue. The most important data collection method to use next, therefore, would be A, political capital charting, B, communications capacity analysis, C, community leader surveys, or D, voting record examination. So looking at the question, it looks like we are trying to see what is the best method to use to learn more about how involved the public is.
Right.
Right. So initially my gut is saying C, community leader surveys, just because you don't want to look at voting record necessarily, because that doesn't get very personal as to how much the public is involved, I guess. But I would definitely say C, because those community leader surveys are going to give you a lot of information about who is behind this issue. That way they can get the decision maker to support it. What do you think?
Okay, I don't know. So it seems like the question is talking about lobbying. Am I right? Like, are you trying to lobby the policymaker, the lawmaker?
Yeah, like you're trying to get them on your side. And they're going to get on your side if they know the level of public support.
The level.
I think that's the key word, public support for the issue.
All right. So you think the answer is what again?
C, community leader surveys.
You believe the answer is C. Let me see, community leader survey. So the most important data collection method to use, yeah. All right, so about the community and the public. And yeah, I think you're right. However, what do you think about D?
Voting record examination?
Yeah, does anybody have access to that?
I think it's a good data collection method, but I don't think that would necessarily, I don't think it would give you, I don't know, voting record examination. It almost just sounds too like, what's the word I'm working for? Like database, like a little bit impersonal. Because if the decision maker wants to see like who is supporting this issue,
right?
I feel like voting record examination. First of all, you're only looking at the population that actually voted. You're not necessarily looking at everyone, I guess.
Okay.
And you can see what policies they've maybe supported like in the past.
All right.
I don't know. That was another one I was looking at. I was like, oh,
Okay, let me see. So I think the most appropriate answer is C.
mhm.
And yeah, I think you're right. I think it's C, because I'm also thinking voting record examination, that's very political.
Mhm.
That's extra political. And all we are just looking for is just the common public support, right? So this is not like electioneering or lobbying as much as it's just a leader survey. So C, community leaders survey. Let me see, community leader
Okay. Survey.
surveys. Okay, question number 2. In media advocacy, decision makers as an audience for the communication strategy are what level of priority? All right, so A says secondary, B tertiary, C primary, and D emergency. So first of all, let's eliminate D. Okay, so what levels of priorities are there in media advocacy and all that? I think we have primary, secondary, and tertiary. So the question is basically asking, in which of those levels does the decision makers fall into? That's the primary question here. So I would say the decision makers fall into the primary level of priority. And why is that? Because in your media advocacy, they are the most important component. The public, the population, the community should be secondary, because they are going to be the recipients of the policy or whatever you're trying to do. So what do you think, Sam? I think the answer is C, primary.
I agree. I would say primary level of priority for sure,
Right.
because they're your decision makers. I'm
Right.
trying to think of an example of a secondary or tertiary as to why it's not those two.
Right.
But no, I think primary is
Yeah. So the beneficiary of the policy is the public, which is the secondary. So the right answer should be B. All right, question 3.
Question 3. Type of brief provided to a decision maker when attempting to convince that person to take a specific action on an issue covers not only policy options, but also policy recommendations. This type of brief is referred to as what? A, information, B, policy, C, issue, or D, policy impact. So I think this question is very straightforward. It talks about policy options and policy recommendations. So this type of brief would be a policy brief. Now you have B and D. B is just policy, whereas D is policy impact. I would say it's trying to trick you, I think, with those two options.
Right.
But I think the correct answer, or the better answer, is B, just a straight policy brief, as opposed to a policy impact brief.
As a policy impact. All right. So,
Yeah. So my answer is B.
I think
I'm not sure if it's right though.
Yeah,
Maybe it's
I believe you're right.
okay.
I believe you're right. But the question I want to ask you now is, what is the difference between an issue brief and a policy brief?
I think, well, policy brief is, that one gives you, again, like the options and your recommendations on a said policy. I
Right.
think the issue brief goes more into detail as to, I want to say the why. I don't know why, but it's like policy is like the what, the policy options and the recommendation. Issue is kind of like the why, like why are we doing this brief?
Right.
I think I'm trying to remember what it said exactly in the book. Um,
I think an issue brief is when you take a certain advocacy issue, you focus on it and you try to gather evidences that are only related to that issue.
mhm.
So it's like you're presenting a case before a judge. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's an issue brief. Okay, question number 4. In advocacy evaluation, measuring campaign and message reach as well as activities and tactics used is considered which type of evaluation? Well, option A, process, B, impact, C, outcome, D, summative. All right, so this question is basically asking what type of evaluation are you going to use to determine the level of message reach that occurred in your campaign. So obviously it's not impact, because everything that has to do with impact measures knowledge and behavior and all of those things. It's not outcome, because if it's outcome, it has to do with the overall goal of the thing, of the whole advocacy. So we are left with summative and process. So a summative evaluation will basically judge the whole intervention or the whole advocacy. It's like a judgment approach, which is not what we are trying to do here. So you are left with a process evaluation. So the question is, this is the right answer. However, what is a process evaluation? A process evaluation is whatever you do after implementation. So the question says, you want to measure campaign reach, which means it has been done already. It has been implemented. Now you just want to evaluate that implementation. So our process becomes the answer. Sam, what do you think?
I agree as well. I believe off the back you can take off impact and outcome, and it leaves you with summative and process.
Right.
And like you said, process evaluation is something that has already happened, and that's what you're measuring. So I agree. I agree with A.
Do you know that I struggled with process evaluation and formative evaluation for so long?
Oh yeah, I had to reread that section multiple times.
Like I had to close the CHES book and just go online and read some PDF materials. Like my mind was like, what is the difference?
Mhm.
Yeah. All right.
It's a little tricky out here. I'm gonna skip question 5 because I think it's the same one.
Oh, yeah. It's the same word. All right. So again, okay.
Again, answers A.
Right. Right. Okay, question number 6.
All right. Question 6. Health is impacted by a variety of different factors, but there are 5 major factors that contribute to the determinants of health for a population.
Right.
Discrimination and income fall under which of the 5 major factors? So A, health behaviors, B, social environment or characteristics, C, physical environment, or D, health services. So social determinants of health is something we as grad students have talked about in detail since I think our very first day. Like what factors impact a person's overall well-being. So when you're looking at these things, so the type of impact that discrimination and income can have on an individual, it's not health services and it's not physical environment, because physical is something, I'm trying to think of an example. Physical environment is if they live in a more air polluted area as opposed to not. Health services is access to health services. How far do they live from a large hospital or a small clinic? So I think the answer is B. Definitely your social environment and characteristics. because discrimination is social behavior. It's how the behaviors of others around you impact your health. Discrimination.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
income as well. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
anything to add, Reuben? What do you think?
I think you did an amazing job breaking it down. I don't want to add anything. I think that's excellent enough. So, social environment or characteristics. This keeps okay. So, question number 7. SMART objectives are statements in which the results of the program are described in measurable terms. SMART stands for specific. It's an acronym, people. So stands for specific, measurable, attainable or achievable, realistic or relevant, and time bound. And I remember in PH280, Dr. Kapitman went hard on SMART objectives.
Yep, the importance of SMART objectives and how specific they needed to be. Little did we know how important this skill would be to know.
I know.
We appreciate Dr. Kapitman and all of our professors who taught us over and over how to write.
Even Dr. Perez, the first time I filled my internship form, I did it like 3 times.
It's just to make us do better and help us learn. So shout out to the professors at Fresno State.
Right, I know. So the question is saying, which of the following is a correctly written SMART objective? So before I answer this question, if you're listening out there, anytime you see a question like this, the first thing you want to look out for is the option that has these 5 acronyms in it. Okay, so if it doesn't have the 5, it is definitely not. So let's see, let's do by elimination. Option D, respondents will drink less alcohol by the end of the program. Number 1, is it specific? Maybe. Is it measurable?
Debatable.
Yeah. Is it achievable? Sure. Is it realistic? Kind of. Is it time bound?
It says end of the program.
End of the program. So does it fit into the SMART objective?
Yes, but is it the best one? We don't know yet.
That's good. That's a good one.
Keep looking.
All right. So respondents will report drinking 30% more water. That sounds a little bit on public health like, okay? I hate the way it sounds. So option B, by the end of the program, respondents will exercise more. All right. The respondents will exercise more. How? How are they going to do it? All right. The how is what we are going to measure, right? So in this case, you are not giving us an option to really measure anything. Okay. How are they going to do it? It's not there. So let's take this out. So we left with option A, which says by the end of the program, time bound, 20% of respondents specific will report eating more fruit, and that is how. So if you're going to measure anything, you are going to be measuring, did you eat enough fruits? All right. So you can see the 5 acronyms are adequately represented. I think that is the word, adequately. In this case, it was represented, but not necessarily adequately. So the answer here is let's see, A. All right, let's go. Number 8.
Number 8.
Seems like we're having a good day.
Researching information about a legislator's voting record before an initial meeting is important. Many places to gather research exist. Which would be the most helpful in understanding the voting record of a member of the United States Congress? A, CapWiz, B, Ballotpedia, C, Sophie Action Center, or D, the APHA Legislative Action? Ooh, tricky one. Okay, so I think this, first and foremost, these are resources that as a health education specialist, you just become familiar with as you write papers. They're obviously all in the book as well. But by now we've written a few papers, we know what resources are and where to go for certain things. So just right off the bat, Sophie Action Center and CapWiz, cross them out because they have nothing to do with voting, legislation, those things.
Right.
So now you're looking at Ballotpedia and the APHA Legislative Action. So because you're looking at voting records, that information for all of Congress is on Ballotpedia. So that's my answer.
Right, which I absolutely agree. So Ballotpedia, if you separate these two words, all right, just like encyclopedia, you can find information about balloting in this pedia. That's what we're talking about. So question number 9. A health education specialist who is designing a media advocacy initiative should incorporate which of the following as media strategies? A, press release, exercise program, interviews, and PSA. What in the name of God is exercise program? Is that a media strategy? I'm not particularly sure. Okay. B, an internet blog, radio interviews, social networking site, and PSA. What is PSA?
Public service
announcement. Okay. All right. C, PSA, letter to the editor, behavior change intervention, and TV interviews. D, PSA, TV interviews. Oh, come on. Cooking classes, really? Okay, so we are left with option B and C. I'm going to go with option B because I believe in this day and age, the biggest media platform is the internet. There is absolutely no way you're going to conduct a successful advocacy in this age without engaging the internet. Option D looks good, actually looks great, but behavior change intervention is not a platform. It is a program that should be done on a platform. So I'm going to cross out this and I'm going to go with this as the answer. Sam, you want to add something to that?
No, not that I can think of. I like Reuben's approach to some of these questions because he says things that that we may find obvious, or he points out things that are very obvious, but I think that are important to know. Like he said, if you try and do media advocacy without using the internet, like,
what are you doing?
What are you doing? So,
All right.
So yes, I agree. I like your perspective on that.
All
Okay.
right.
Question. The health education specialist can examine health determinants through a social ecological lens. Which social, ecological, and social determinant factor includes healthcare providers' recommendations? A, individual, B, interpersonal, C, community, or D, policy. So I think this is one where you have to look at what the question is asking, because I think it tries to trick you with which social, ecological, and social determinant factor includes the recommendations from your healthcare provider. I think it was just trying to throw you off. But the answer is easily found in healthcare providers' recommendation. It's another person. It's another person who is talking to you about your health, hence interpersonal and not intrapersonal. And while the healthcare provider is technically a part of the community, I think the answer is B, because it has nothing to do with policy, so it's not D.
Right.
And it's outside of the individual level because you're looking at your healthcare provider's recommendations, so it's not A. So I think the answer is B.
Yes, is B. All right, which I agree. However, my question is going to be, why is it not C?
Why is it not community? Ooh, good question. I think because when you're looking at community, if you remember these health determinants, like from the book, it's levels. It's like individual, intrapersonal, interpersonal. I think it's community.
Yeah, I think it's community level.
And then after that, so it's like tiers, and each level like gets bigger and encompasses more factors. Well, I take that back. It doesn't encompass more factors. It encompasses, what am I trying to say? What's the word I'm looking for, Reuben? It's not more things. It's getting late. I can't think. So when you think about community is like exactly what it sounds like the community factors that impact you.
Right.
So it's like where you live, the parks that you have access to, the health centers that you have access to, the community that you live in. So it's more of like on a larger scale. But this, since it's just your healthcare provider, one person, it would be interpersonal, your interpersonal communications with your provider.
Sounds good. Right, and I absolutely agree with that. So, question 11, the health education specialist is searching for information about a health issue for an advocacy effort. The specialist is specifically looking for the facts, looking for epidemiology and health consequences of the issue. The most appropriate site to search would be what? A, JSTOR, ERIC, B, SCS, AAH, C, CDC, and NIH, D, NNM, and Community Guide. Every public health student wants to pick CDC right now. But I'm here to break the bad news to you. Okay, the answer is still CDC. Okay, never mind. It's still CDC. It's still CDC. But again, like we've always said since we started this, try to know what the acronyms stand for, right? Doesn't mean because CDC is right there, it's always going to be the answer. All right, so in this case, it's just ridiculous because JSTOR is like an academic journal. So it's really going to be difficult for you to get information on morbidity, mortality rates, incidence, and prevalence. I mean, absolutely, you don't want to do that. SCS, Association of Chemical something, American Chemical something. So we are not trying to blow up anywhere. We are not looking for chemicals, all right? So community guide, you are definitely not going to find a reliable data source on mortality and morbidity in a community guide. So the most appropriate place for you to go to would be the CDC, all right? Should be the CDC. Okay, answer C. Sam, do you agree?
I do agree. And I think we've talked about this like in previous videos. Just do the best that you can to just know the acronyms. Even if you don't know every single letter in the acronym, just know what it's about. Like ERIC, I can't remember what the whole thing stands for, but I know it's education. Like the big E is education. Right. And the J in JSTOR is journal. Right. So you just have to you don't have to know every single one because unless it's HIPAA, because I think HIPAA was a question that we we got in the past. But
Yeah.
everything else, just try to associate, especially if it's coming down to the wire. Just know what goes with what.
True. Absolutely true. Question number 12.
Okay. An action-oriented, time-limited alliance for health issue advocacy is which of the following? A, coalition, B, collaborative, C, task force, or D, influential. So I think my first instinct is to go back to and look at the specific details in the question. Action oriented and time limited. So time limited alliance, this is something that's talked about in the book. So you can have coalitions and collaboratives that are action oriented, but I don't think they're time limited like a task force is. A task force you assemble for advocacy to do something that's action oriented towards a health issue, but it's time limited because your task force is only going to be around for the amount of time that it's needed to solve said issue, if I remember correctly. So my answer is C, but now I'm hesitating because I want to say maybe I mixed up the definitions. Maybe it's coalition that's actually the time limited, but I don't think it is. What do you think, Reuben?
I think your definitions are on point. As a matter of fact, the answer is task force.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Also, again, the question says action-oriented, time-limited alliance, right? So it's like a case of urgency. Like we are setting up this group for this time period and for this purpose. So coalition and collaborative, they can be something that is, even after the intervention is done and advocacy is over, you can actually decide to keep them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Like in LLS, where I do my internship, we are extending our reach for collaborations and organizations, and we are not looking to do away with them anytime soon. However, a task force is now, when the job is done, everybody goes home. All right. So answer is a special unit assembled for a certain purpose. So question number 13, the tool used to identify advocacy campaign resources and gaps is which of the following? Network assessment, asset inventory, alliance mapping, legislative tracker. First of all, I'm going to do away with legislative tracker because this question has absolutely nothing to do with lawmakers. Okay, I'm going to do with alliance mapping. Absolutely, alliances. Well, you can argue that if you go extensively into resources, you could mention alliance, but not really. Right? Not really. So that leaves us with option A and B, network assessment and asset inventory. Now, I don't know the answer to this question, but I'm going to go with B, and I'm going to do that because it talks about campaign resources. The only way you can account for the resources that go into a program is to do asset inventory. You take an inventory of what goes in and what comes out. That's the only accountability method for those. However, network assessment, it's something worth thinking about, but personally, I wouldn't think about
it. Personally, Reuben wouldn't think about it. Yeah. I'll try to be the advocate for A.
Okay.
So for A, you want to assess your network of people that'll be helping with this.
Right,
So you want to assess their capacity to do their jobs and
right.
assess any gaps that they may have. So that might be looking at your resources and gaps.
Okay.
I agree that the answer is B, but this one stumped me as well. Because the A and B were so close, but I think asset inventory. I think taking an account as opposed to an assessment is kind of where you want to approach this.
Right, right.
Is that the answer? Is it B?
Yeah, I think it is. It
Oh,
is.
okay.
It is B. Asset inventory. And you know the funniest part about these questions is this. The places you are going to find things like this in the book is just in a tiny line. Like
In
no,
the book.
like no emphasis is made on it. No big deal is made about it. And it's such an important part, so let me see. Yeah, asset inventory. Okay, number 14.
All right. The health education specialist realizes that although already being connected with legislators and having collaborated with many advocacy coalition, the specialist lacks important advocacy skills and has limited personal financial resources. The best recognized opportunity to overcome these barriers to being an advocate is to what? A, participate in national action. B, enroll in a graduate degree program. C, conduct an environmental scan of affiliates. Yeah, affiliates. Or D, attended advocacy webinar series. So off the bat, I'm taking out C, environmental scan, because
Okay,
that has nothing to do with lacking financial resources or lacking advocacy skills. Participating in national action, I would also take out A, just because while it's a great opportunity, it won't necessarily, it'll give you the opportunity to hold in your skills maybe, but I don't think it will as much as either enrolling in a graduate program or attending a webinar series. I think, again, looking back at the question, there's two things that they lacked. And I think because they mentioned both, it'll help you get to the answer. So they lack advocacy skills and they have limited financial resources. So a person with limited financial resources may not be able to enroll in a graduate program. So my answer is D, just attend an advocacy webinar series that won't cost you, that won't put a strain on your financial resources, and it'll help you build up those advocacy skills.
right.
Because as me and Reuben both can attest, achieving a degree in higher education can be costly. Especially if you're an international student such as Reuben.
Absolutely. And option B is so funny because to enroll in a degree program, you need the resources that you lack. So why put the resources in advocacy and leave your school behind, right? So what are you saying? Yeah. And of course, yeah, you in a national action, it's too big of an event for you to actually, gain valuable skills immediately. It's too big of an event to do that. So yeah, absolutely. Attend an advocacy webinar series. They might just point you in the right direction to go. So, right. And of course, again, let me just add this quickly. And I think one of the reasons why D is appropriate because it is an information section. And in information, you can get the skills and you can also get where you can get some grants and fundings to do all that. So question number 15, the health education specialist specialist. Sorry, I said specialist. My bad. Ask an elected official to vote to increase funding for teen pregnancy prevention in the state. This specialist is engaged in what? Interesting. Okay, first of all, education, lobbying, advocacy, and public policy. All right, so you are asking an elected official to vote to increase funding for teen education. First of all, who are you educating here? Nobody. All right, you're not educating the elected official, you're not educating yourself. So that's not what you're doing. Let's go to option D, public policy, right? So what you are engaged in is not public policy. However, the end result is going to be a public policy. Now, that's a major thing. This process is not public policy. The question we are being asked here is, what is the name of this process, not the name of the outcome. The outcome is a public policy, it's not the process. So I'm going to eliminate this. Now, lobbying and advocacy. These are two very tight, interconnected definitions. So we have to be careful. So what is advocacy?
The name of this chapter.
Yeah, the name of the chapter, you got me there. So advocacy is you standing up either as an individual, as a people, and saying, we stand for this. We stand for this. Doesn't mean you know how to get it done. It's just what you wish you can do. Now, lobbying is going after someone who is in the position to make it happen.
I think key word being elected official.
Official, the key word. So you are going after someone who is absolutely having the power to make it happen. So in this case, we are lobbying the elected official. So please understand, and you see, public policy sounds good, sounds like something we have in public health, but always remember, it is the outcome. It is not a process, all right? So advocacy, anybody can advocate. You may not have the means to get it done. Lobbying gives you the power to get it done. Sam, do you want to add anything?
No, I think you did a good job of distinguishing the two. So
Right.
I agree.
So let me just add this to this, okay? Let's say, for example, for instance, we have electioneering in this option.
Ooh.
How do we make the difference?
Don't know.
Interesting, because I just thought about it right now. In electioneering, how do we particularly make the difference between all of this? And
I'm trying to. Oh, man.
okay, should I try?
Try, go for it.
Okay, so in electioneering, the official has not been elected.
There you go.
What you are doing is you are telling the official, you have our support if you vote on our behalf for what we are advocating for. However, in the case of lobbying, these people are in the position to make it happen already. And that makes a difference. And I added this because I've seen a question elsewhere, not in this book, that asks questions on electioneering, and it's also CHES questions. So I think it's important to understand that. Okay, question number 16.
Question 16. When a media advocacy campaign is used to educate about proposed policy changes, decision makers with the power to affect change are which type of audience? Primary, secondary, tertiary, primary. I could never pronounce that one.
Well,
I think just right off the bat, decision makers with the power to affect change, primary. They are the audience that you want to target first. They're the ones who, I think the keyword in here is the power to affect change directly. They don't have to go through anyone. So my first instinct is primary.
and I think you are absolutely right. I think that's absolutely right. So they are your primary audience. Like we said earlier on, the public is your secondary audience because they are the beneficiary of whatever is going on. Okay. So question number 17. Which of the following is not an element of an effective advocacy plan? Emphasis on effective advocacy plan. Number one, market the coalition, identify the goals, communication persuasion model, strategize tactics. Interesting. So, I mean, if you have a plan in anything, you must first start with your goal selection. You need a goal in the plan. If you have an advocacy plan, you need the tactics to know how do you go about this. Now, we are left with A or C. So a communication persuasion theory or model basically allows you to go after people and change their mind just in case of what they don't want to do. However, for your advocacy to work anywhere, you need a coalition, all right? And not just needing a coalition, you need to market your coalition. And when we say market your coalition, it means you actually need to even lobby your coalition, then you have to put them out there so people know who your partners are, who the stakeholders are, and who you are working with. So that's what we mean by market the coalition. So I would say you necessarily don't have to have an element, I don't know.
What is the answer to this one? This
Huh?
one's making me scratch my head because I feel like you did a great job of talking about the importance of both. So I feel like both are essential, but not an element of an effective plan. So there's a good answer, but then there's a better answer.
Right, right.
What's the better answer? And I think, again, we've talked about this in our previous videos. That's what these questions are meant to do. There may be more than one, quote, right answer, but this test is all about picking the best one.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, what are you thinking? My initial one is you don't need to market your coalition. I think your community persuasion model is more important, but that's me.
Okay, I'm gonna be on the opposite side.
Oh no.
I'm gonna go with C.
Really? Okay. Why?
I think I want to go with C as saying it is not an element of an effective advocacy plan because as an health education specialist, you are kind of naturally trained to have this in you. I don't know. I don't even know if that makes sense. Okay, this is the part where we check. Let's check.
Check it. Check the answer, Reuben. What's the answer?
Let me go ahead and check.
We were doing so well. It hadn't advocacy hadn't stumped us yet, but I think there's been a couple.
I know. Let me see. Okay. Communication.
Not an element of an effective advocacy plan. I think my final answer is still A with hesitation.
Oh, okay. Let me see. So it's question 148. Question number 148. Oh, you are right, Sam.
Oh, it's A.
Yeah,
Oh,
it is. It is interesting.
interesting. So
Hmm.
I guess,
Why did you go with A?
why did I go with A? Because I feel, okay, so tactics, yes. Goals, yes. I feel like the next part is, how are you going to make people, like, how are you going to get them on your side?
Okay.
I think that finding that approach is more essential than trying to market your coalition. I felt like that was more of a plan, well, it's an advocacy plan, so technically it's in the plan.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah, that one's a head scratcher for sure.
Right. This is such a tricky question because an advocacy plan, you need to have your coalition. And you also need to, know how to persuade the lawmakers, something.
I think if it maybe said like develop your coalition, then maybe it'd be something else. But this
Right.
says like market your coalition.
So this is after you've developed the coalition.
Yeah, I feel like if it said like develop your coalition, then great. But this is like, all right, I have it. Now I'm gonna market it and try to get more people to come. I don't know.
Yeah, it,
That's a hard one.
it sounds like going too far, right?
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like it's something after you already have all of the first three things done, and then like you do the other one. I don't know. I
Right.
guess that's kind of how I thought about it.
Okay, answer, market the coalition. Right, so guys, if you are watching at home, this is the beauty of doing this. The fact that most times when I just put these questions together, I do it in such a rush. I have no time to look at the answers. I have no time to read through the questions. And that's why we even have multiple questions reoccurring. Yeah, and I think this is the beauty of it. It's not like we're coming out here, we know all the answers. And, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So, question number 18.
All right. 18. In the ecological model, behavior has many influences. Which level best describes the role of cultural values, norms, and a built environment? Ooh. Intrapersonal, interpersonal, organizational, and community. So again, looking at cultural values, norms, and environment. Going back to what I was trying to explain earlier, but I had a hard time explaining. It's those different levels of influences in a person's health journey. You have the individual level, the interpersonal level, which was with someone and their healthcare provider. Organizational would be the influence of the hospital, because it's a big organization on you. Community is the people you're surrounded with, and that comes from cultural norms, your values. And then they gave you the answer: environment being a broad term that I associate with community environment. So first instinct is definitely D.
Absolutely.
So if I wanted to argue for organizational, then we could talk about if it said like schools or hospitals or health centers.
Right.
That could be churches, even organization.
Sure.
Well, that might be, yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, community.
Right. Yeah, that's absolutely true. So
Anything to add, Reuben?
I don't think so. I think the word environment gave the answer away, right? Because if you say cultural values, it could really be interpersonal, intrapersonal, norms, values, and all that. But environment, that's a good one there. So question number 19. The health education specialist can influence policy making at the implementation stage by doing what? Offering comment on draft rules, recommending changes based on operational experience, defining the problem, evaluating policy solutions. All right. The first thing I want to take out is defining the problem. So it says at the implementation stage. You don't define problems at the implementation stage. You have actually identified and you know what you are going to do about the problem going into the implementation stage. So let's take that out. So offering comments on draft rules. What are draft rules? Evaluating policy solutions, recommending changes based on operational experience. Yet education specialists can influence policy making at the implementation stage. By what? How can you influence?
This one has a lot of tricky
It does.
verbs, I would say.
It does.
Policy making.
Because if you think of B, you could have a process evaluation that allows you to recommend changes before the advocacy is done or through the way. If you think of D, one of the ways you can influence policy making, this is tricky.
I want to say just because D has the word evaluate in it, I just want to nix it out.
Right.
But that's just me.
Right. I think I want to go with B. What do you think?
I think what's Trump, okay, operational experience, like their personal experience.
I think that experience on that certain advocacy job, like crazy.
A and B are stumping me.
So you want to influence policy making at the implementation stage. So this advocacy has begun. It's in the works.
And you're still in implementation stage.
Right.
So when I think of that, I'm like, I think offering comments is where I'm leaning towards, just because if you're recommending changes, that's after implementation. That's
Right.
after your thing has gone, you've seen what can be changed, and you're at evaluation.
Right.
It's just changes and comments are like the words I'm like looking at that are standing out to me.
Yeah, I mean the word operational experience is also throwing me off. It's
that too. Like, is it?
It's too big of a word. What's going on?
It also makes me want to say that's the answer because it's throwing me off.
Let me decide. So you want to influence policy making at the implementation stage. You just kicked off the program, you just left the planning, and now you are implementing. So if you are going to influence policy making, you probably want to give your recommendations in form of comments. Your recommendations are comments.
If it said recommending comments, then sure. But it doesn't, it says.
Okay, I'm gonna go with A.
Oh. A or B, A or B.
Yeah, because I'm gonna go with A because this stage still allows you to make changes, like monumental changes, because you've not left the implementation phase at all. All right. So, and I think, is there a difference between offering comments and recommending changes?
I don't know. I think maybe I guess not necessarily. Your comments could be about changing it.
Right.
Operational experience is throwing me off. It's probably operational experience. I'm going to read chapter 5 again. It's probably going to be one line in the chapter, and that's going to be how we find the answer.
Okay.
My initial gut was A. I'm going with B.
You going with what?
B.
I think I'm going to stick with A.
Okay.
Remember how we make presentations? When we make presentations,
Yeah.
where do we put the recommendation slide?
An evaluation.
Like at the end of the presentation.
Yeah. Oh. Ah, answer A. Ah.
You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Is the answer really A though? Am I really wrong?
Let's find out. Let me pick a keyword. What's the keyword in all of this?
Implementation stage.
Implementation stage. Let me see. Implementation stage. What's the question like again? Can influence policy
Or you
making.
do draft rules, I guess.
Okay, let's do draft rules.
Do draft rules.
Let's do draft rules.
Your book is online though, right? You don't have a hard copy?
I don't have a hard copy. Draft rules. Oh yeah. Okay. Guess what the answer is?
A.
A.
Dang it! Search the book for draft rules.
I did. In fact, it was only mentioned once in the book, draft rules, and it was mentioned under advocacy.
Was it this question or was it actually in the book?
This question, the explanation. So let me read this out. So it says, health education specialists can offer public comment on draft rules. After enactment, they can recommend changes. So the recommendation of changes are
policy making.
This is so crazy. Okay, so look at my screen. I'm going to
put that in there. Just paste it. Paste that whole thing.
Right. Okay, and this is it.
After enactment, they can recommend changes based on operational experience, evaluation, or new health evidence. So after the policy has been enacted. So this was policy making was the key term here, guys. And like Reuben said earlier, this is one line in the book.
Just one line.
Just one line.
Only once in the book.
And it's a question. So that should, not to scare any of you, but that's that's how this goes.
It is crazy. I think if this was the exam, the only thing that would have saved me is I would think of when I make presentations, where does my recommendation come in?
True. This would definitely be I read this twice already and I still don't have an answer. Come back to you later. That's right. Definitely my initial thing is I will come back to this.
Wow, this is crazy. So you can offer comments. So it means there is a difference between offering comments and recommending change. I think offering comments doesn't mean it's going to be taken into account, but your recommended changes might has a higher percentage of, interesting, guys, interesting.
And I think, again, going back to, you recommend changes after it's been done. So like you said, at the end of the presentation, at the end of the implementation. So that's why that's not the answer. Because you like the operational experience, the evaluation, and the health evidence of that policy. All of that goes and helps you recommend a change. God. Oh.
But again, look at this, Sam. If we are going by what is written in the book, option B and option C, they are the same thing. It says you recommended change based on operational experience and evaluations, right? Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. Stumped us. Wow.
Yeah, crazy. All right, question number 20.
Okay, question number 20. Let's see what we got. In evaluating a legislative advocacy campaign, process indicators include what? Public attitude change, policy adoption, campaign reach, or policy awareness. Ooh, they threw evaluating, process indicators, they threw all the vocabulary at you in this one. Wow. So you want an indicator of how the process went. So legislative advocacy campaign. Process indicators include public attitude change, no, because it's not a process. That'd be more of like your impact or outcome. So not A.
Right.
Policy adoption. I want to also say no. Campaign reach or policy awareness. I would say not A and not B.
Okay.
Because you're doing an advocacy campaign.
All right.
So your process indicators can either be how campaign reach, so how far how many people your campaign got to, or policy awareness.
Interesting. Where are you going with?
A legislative advocacy campaign. And then they put campaign reach or policy awareness. Those two are a little similar.
So you said absolutely it's not A, right?
Not A and not B.
Okay, not A and not B. Okay.
I'm looking at C and D.
Looking at C and D.
In evaluating a legislative advocacy campaign, what is your process indicator? The reach of your campaign or the amount of awareness around the policy? It can't be that easy to where it's an advocacy campaign and then your indicator is your campaign reach. Is it really that easy? Is the answer really C? I'm going with C.
Yeah.
If it's that easy.
Fortunately, the answer is actually C.
Oh my God. Guys, that one was that easy.
Right.
Man, okay, this is where it's going to get me in the test, everyone. I'm going to overthink it.
Right.
Like, I'm going to overthink it and try to go back and forth, and it's just going to be the most obvious one. Campaign.
Right. But then I also think the only way you can measure awareness is through the reach. You are never going to know people's perception about your policy if the campaign never reached them in the first place. So I think reach has more important value than awareness. It has to get to them first before they become aware of it. So now the first 20 questions are CHES questions.
Okay.
And how I made the distinction was when I put the questions together, I wrote M right here. So we know it's NCHEC questions we're getting into.
Are the rest of them NCHEC questions then? This
Yeah.
22 MCHES?
I think I just included 4.
Oh, okay.
Right. So which of the following type of evaluation would a specialist use in an ongoing activity to monitor the reach? We just talked about this, and the influence of media messages to improve all that. I'm gonna go with process quickly. Answer process. Okay. So 22.
Oh, sorry. Oh no, my laptop's gonna die. Okay, sorry, it came undone. You said 22?
Right.
Okay. Which one of the following is an example of grassroots advocacy? A, donate money to a political campaign. B, contacting a policymaker. C, drafting a position paper for a professional organization. Or D, starting a door-to-door petition.
All right.
Grassroots. Initial answer. Initial answer is D.
Okay. I think initial answer is great. Grassroots, person
Is
to
like-
person, door to door, community town hall meetings, and all of those. So
Definitely upfront. Yep.
question 23. Prior to the first meeting with a legislator, what is a vital first step?
Ooh.
Develop talking points, develop an advocacy toolkit, conduct research on the legislator, send a letter requesting a meeting. All right, so it's not going to be sending a letter to request a meeting because it says already prior to the first meeting, which means you've gained ground there already. So let's take that out. Develop an advocacy toolkit. This comes up after your first meeting most times. All right. So, okay, my gut feeling is conduct research on the legislator.
Mine too.
You want to know what they stand for. You want to know what they are, what they say already. You want to know where they stand. You want to know what their strength is and all that. So yeah, we begin with this as the right answer. All right.
And then, yep. Because then after you do your research, then you develop your talking points. So, yeah,
Right.
I agree.
Okay, 24, which is the last one.
Ooh, last one already. Okay. The health education specialist called the state legislator to specifically ask about the legislator's support for HR 66, a bill that permanently funds the Children's Health Insurance Program and related programs that are used to support the development of child health quality measures and outreach and enrollment efforts. Wow, long sentence. Which of the following terms describes this activity? A, direct advocacy, B, education advocacy, C, lobbying, D, indirect advocacy. You're calling your state legislator. You are not educating them, so it's not B. You could argue for direct or indirect advocacy. Why do I have a feeling it's C. It's technically not advocacy, it's lobbying because it's an elected official.
Okay.
So that's my initial thought, is just next all the other ones because they have advocacy in the name.
Okay.
And the answer C.
So you go with C?
Yep.
All right. C,
I actually don't know if
right
that's right.
answer.
It might be A. I don't know.
You're right. You're right.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay, see.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying about the NCHES questions. They are not so far away, you know? They are not so far away. So, hey guys, we have come to the end of area 5, advocacy. As you could see, a few of the questions were tricky. So you want to watch the videos and probably still open your book again. You definitely want to do that, right? So I and Sam have agreed that next week we will make a video on the models and theories in the book. Wow, that's going to be a lot of work.
I think we're up for the challenge, especially so when you guys are watching this or as we're making this, me and Reuben are about exactly 2 weeks away from our exam. So I think it'd be a good practice for us to go through all of the theories and stuff, a good refresher being so close. So
Right.
I think we're up for it.
Absolutely. All right. So to everyone out there, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sam. We love having you here.
Thank you, Reuben, for having me. I say it every time. He brought me in on his project for me to do this, and I think it's a really cool thing. And the first thing he said is, "Oh, these videos are for others." I'm like, oh, such a kind, brilliant, well-spoken human. So thank you.
Okie dokie. All right. Till the next one. See you again, Sam. Have an amazing night.
You too, Reuben. Thanks.
Right.